coming up on a newscast. North Korea's leader presided over a key meeting of the Workers' Party. The session reportedly involves a review of state policies and decisions on a series of important issues. An office building in Daegu caught fire, claiming at least 7 lives. Investigators and police suspect arson. South Korea is ready to launch its first domestically developed space rocket. The second attempt will include a payload of several satellites. Hello, it's good to have you with us. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. North Korea faces a number of challenges, including a serious COVID-19 outbreak, a drought, and international sanctions. To address these issues and more, the regime's leader is presiding over a party meeting that's been planned for some time. Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
North Korea is holding a key meeting of the Workers' Party with leader Kim Jong-un presiding. The meeting began on Wednesday and was reported the following day by the regime's state-run Korea Central News Agency.
The meeting began with a discussion of the agenda amid a high level of political enthusiasm among all the participants, who are fully aware of their important duty in the historic struggle for the prosperity and development of our great country and the people's well-being.
While the agenda was not released, likely among issues at hand are the economy, the COVID-19 outbreak, and the serious drought that's hurt the North's agriculture. Another possible item could be Pyongyang's next nuclear test, which both South Korea and U.S. intelligence say is ready to go and could happen soon. This is the 5th plenary meeting of the party's 8th Central Committee, and it'll reportedly continue on through Thursday. The meeting had been mentioned by the North beforehand. The Workers' Party said at a Politburo meeting last December that there will be a plenary meeting in June to review state affairs for this year and make decisions on a series of important issues. In response to the meeting, an official at South Korea's Unification Ministry said the hope in Seoul is that the meeting yields good outcomes for the livelihoods of the North Korean people. Also, the ministry hopes that the outcomes lead to actual denuclearization as well as a normalization of relations between South and North. However, the official refrained from giving an assessment of the meeting, including whether the nuclear test could come at the end of it. Once there have been clear announcements from the North, the official said, Seoul will be able to give a more accurate analysis. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's ambassador to the UN is calling on Pyongyang to halt provocations and return to dialogue, while urging other UN members to apply pressure. The envoy's remarks came as his North Korean counterpart defended the regime's missile tests, claiming the reclusive state has a right to self-defense. Kim Yo-sun tells us more.
The two Koreas came head-to-head over the issue of sanctioning the North over its latest missile provocations. Seoul's top representative to the UN on Wednesday called on Pyongyang to halt provocative activities and engage in dialogue.
We urge the DPRK to stop such provocative actions, abide by all relevant Security Council resolutions, and respond to the call for dialogue and peace on the Korean Peninsula through complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization.
The remarks were made in a UN General Assembly meeting to discuss the latest failure of the UNSC to pass a resolution on North Korea. During the same meeting, North Korea's UN ambassador defended the regime's development of ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons to protect it against, quote, direct threats posed by the U.S.
If DPRK conducted test constitutes the threat to the international community, UN Security Council should clarify convincingly why ICBM test by United States, hostile to us, is not regarded threat to the DPRK.
This comes as China and Russia defended their vetoes of a resolution calling for tough new sanctions on Pyongyang. The close allies reiterated their opposition to increased sanctions, blaming Washington for heightening tensions on the Korean peninsula. They also urged the U.S. to suspend its joint military operations in the region. Beijing and Moscow also insisted that it's high time for a dialogue between North Korea and the Biden administration. Kim Hye-san, Arirang News.
Seoul's top new convoy stressed the importance of a unified and resolute stance from the international community against North Korea's provocations. Kim Gun made the comments to his Chinese counterpart during their first phone meeting. The two shared their assessments on regional security and exchanged views on ways to handle the regime's recent missile launches. On the subject of a possible nuclear test, Liu Xiaoming agreed on the need for close bilateral communication and cooperation. President Yoon Suk-yeol appears to have broken away from his predecessors in terms of the way he communicates. The South Korean leader focused on strengthening the Seoul-Washington alliance, the economy, and social integration as well. Yoon Jung-min helps us look back at the first 30 days in office.
Friday, June 10th, marks exactly 1 month since Yoon Suk-yeol took office as the president of this country. Every step of the prosecutor general turned president's way has been marked with firsts, but for the presidential press corps covering the South Korean president, his morning commute to office and the daily stop behind the press line are definitely some of the most welcoming changes.
저는 원래 한 달 됐다, 1년 됐다에 대한 특별한 소감 같은 거 없이 살아온 사람이고 열심히 해야죠. 지금 시급한 현안들이 한두 가지가 아닙니다.
In his first 30 days in office, President Yoon focused on strengthening alliance with the U.S. with a one-on-one with U.S. President Joe Biden, during which the two reaffirmed their commitment to a global comprehensive strategic alliance and agreed to reactivate talks on extended deterrence. He's also been stressing the importance of long-term growth with a special emphasis on the semiconductor industry.
첨단 산업으로 우리 산업 구조가 고도화되지 않으면은 우리가 앞으로 우리 사회 체제를 유지하기가 어렵습니다. 그래서 반도체는 이 첨단 산업 구조 체계 내에서 가장 핵심적인 분야입니다.
Another area of focus for President Yoon in his first month has been national integration and unity. His effort to close the regional divide in South Korea has been apparent in a number of instances, with the most prominent one seen last month when the conservative president led a train full of his cabinet and the entire ruling People Power Party to the May 18th pro-democracy memorial event in the liberal stronghold Gwangju. What's key from here on is how well the new president handles pressing challenges that lie ahead, such as North Korea's growing missile and nuclear threat, particularly amid signs of an imminent 7th nuclear test, and inflationary and recessionary pressure at home. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
President Yoon pledged better treatment for those who fought to defend the country. To mark Memorial Month, he held a luncheon with survivors from the Cheonan warship, which North Korea sank in 2010, and survivors of the Second Battle of Yeonpyeong in 2002. The South Korean leader promised to create a better system of rewards for the heroes, emphasizing that's the foundation of strong national defense. He also highlighted that it's a duty of the state to provide proper support to veterans and their families. Seoul's finance chief highlighted the price stability as the top priority for the new administration. At the government's second meeting of ministers related to the economy, the president asked officials to check up on related progress. Choo Kyung-ho pointed out the local economy is impacted by inflationary trends abroad, namely soaring prices for energy and food. He vowed to unveil new economic policies next week. The minister stressed that a crucial part will be cutting red tape to let companies grow. South Korea's central bank believes the country is not at risk of stagflation. Still, officials are keeping an eye on inflation, which is at a historic high. The focus of monetary policy will be on stabilizing prices. Shin Yeon reports.
While we may be seeing a soar in consumer prices at present, South Korea's economy isn't expected to slow down anytime soon. That's what the Bank of Korea said on Thursday. Deputy Governor Park Jong-seok told reporters that there's no need to worry about stagflation. Instead, the country's economy has the potential to grow significantly, especially since the government has lifted almost all COVID-19 restrictions, as this means more people are out and about. The Bank of Korea finds that more people are shopping in at stores rather than online. In December of 2021, 77% of all consumer goods were bought in person. In just 4 months, this figure increased by 1.9 percentage points. But while we may be safe from stagflation, we are in danger of more inflation. Consumer prices in Korea jumped 5.4% last month, the steepest on-year increase since 2008. The Bank of Korea traced risks of inflation to the weaker local currency, the Korean won. From January to March, the won slid by 7.5% against the dollar from a year earlier. Officials also attribute the soaring prices to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Since the war broke out, global supply chains have been disrupted, raising the prices of oil and other commodities. To contain inflation, the Bank of Korea has raised its policy interest rate by a total of 125 basis points, from a record low of 0.5% since August. Officials are set to continue focusing monetary policies on stabilizing prices by raising the policy interest rate by 25 basis points at a time, instead of taking big step raises of double that amount. 신예은, Arirang News.
A state-run think tank sees economic recovery losing steam due to inflation and global supply chain disruptions. While exports are likely to slow down, the service sector is picking up thanks to distancing measures being lifted. Yoon helps us look beyond the digits.
It seems there's a difficult road ahead for the local economy. South Korea's economic think tank, the Korea Development Institute, published a report on Thursday. It pointed to global supply chain disruptions and rising raw material prices for hindering not only the manufacturing industry, but the Korean economy as a whole. Growing inflationary pressure on the supply side also made consumer prices shoot up. May's headline inflation stood at 5.4%, up from 4.8% in April. Core inflation, excluding food and energy, was also higher in May at 3.4% compared to 3.1% the month before. But some good news came from the service industry. Thanks to eased social distancing measures, face-to-face businesses have been showing signs of recovery. In fact, service production recorded another month of high growth, jumping from 3.7% in March to 5.1% in April. However, exports, which did improve in May from the previous month, showed signs of slowing. Much of that had to do with China's zero-COVID policy and other external uncertainties. With that, the KDI says the domestic economy should keep a close eye on the war in Ukraine and other countries' tightening monetary policies. 이지윤, Arirang News.
Seoul is the world's 10th most expensive city to live in for expats, according to ECA International. The global mobility company determines its annual list based on multiple factors, such as the average price of rent and public transit, as well as the strength of the local currency. Hong Kong led the way for the third straight year, with Tokyo, Shanghai, and Guangzhou also making the top 10. Asia has become one of the priciest continents around the world. Over in Daegu, an office building caught fire Thursday morning. The blaze was extinguished, but at least 7 lives were reportedly lost. The police suspect arson. Yi Xiu has the details.
A 7-story office building near the Daegu District Court caught fire Thursday morning at around 10:55. The fire was extinguished in around 20 minutes, but has resulted in at least 7 deaths. Around 40 more have been injured. According to the fire department, initial reports described a cloud of black smoke rising from the building's second floor and a loud bang that sounded like an explosion. Some 50 fire trucks and 160 firefighters were dispatched. The fire department has conducted 2 searches throughout the building and said that everyone has been evacuated. The fire department also said that the ground floors of the building did not have any sprinklers installed. While the exact cause of fire is being investigated, the police do suspect arson. The building held many law firms due to its proximity to the courthouse. In fact, the police have a suspect, a person who had complaints about a lawyer who worked in the building regarding the outcome of a case. The lawyer was out of the office at the time of fire, while the suspect was among those reported dead on site. CCTV footage acquired by the police reportedly shows the suspect on the day carrying an unidentified object covered by cloth into the building.
We've confirmed through CCTV investigation that the suspect carried an object out of his home, clutching it with both his hands.
이시후 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea plans to launch its space rocket developed with domestic technology. This time, Nuri's payload will include several real satellites. Han Sung-ho provides a glimpse of what to expect.
South Korea's first fully homegrown space rocket, Nuri, will lift off for the second time next Wednesday. Its third and final stage has been attached, meaning the vehicle now awaits final adjustments over the weekend and a dry run operation on Monday.
Dry run means that there will not be any fluids like the fuel, oxidizer, or gases. Those fluids are not involved in the operation.
The Korea Aerospace Research Institute has been focusing most of its efforts on upgrading the rocket's third stage, which failed to put a dummy satellite into orbit during its first run last year, by burning out earlier than expected, despite Nuri reaching its target altitude of 700 kilometers. Nuri will blast off from the Naro Space Center in Gohung, Jeollanam-do Province, likely sometime between 3 and 5 p.m. This time, with a close to 1.5-ton payload including several functioning satellites, one 180-kilogram performance verification satellite, and 4 mini-cube satellites.
But in second launch, we will have all 6 satellites. So one is the PV set performance verification satellite, and 4 of CubeSats, and the other is the weight simulator, like the first launch.
Authorities have reserved June 16th to the 23rd as the rocket's launch window in consideration of variables like bad weather. Should it succeed, South Korea will become the world's 7th country to launch a space rocket independently capable of placing a satellite weighing over a ton into orbit using domestic technology. The nation's invested more than $1.5 billion into the Nuri project since 2010. Han Sung-ho, Arirang News.
Some researchers say South Korea is experiencing dangerously high levels of ozone, something that poses a direct risk to health. It's caused by chemical reactions that occur when there's pollution and strong sunlight. Choi Min-jung explains further.
Amid a persistent spell of dry weather in South Korea, the average ozone concentration level hit an all-time high in May. Though still within the normal range, the concentration level for last month stood at 0.051 parts per million. This is around a 20% increase on year, as well as the highest figure ever reported since data was first compiled in South Korea in 2001. The ministry says this record is mainly caused by increased solar radiation from more sunlight and a decline in the amount of rainfall. The amount of solar radiation recorded in May was the highest since 2010, while precipitation levels for the same month hit a record low. Experts say exposure to high ozone concentrations harm people's health, with effects especially seen on the respiratory system, the eyes, and skin.
Masks are not helpful in reducing the inflow of the gas into our body, so people should try to stay indoors when there is excessive sunlight.
Experts also say people should use public transportation instead of driving when ozone levels are high. The government says it will raise awareness of the need to follow this advice and will inspect companies that emit significant amounts of air pollutants. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, Russia is reportedly taking control over most of Severodonetsk. Moscow is ramping up efforts to occupy the south as well. This comes while some fear the continued war could threaten global food security. Song Yu-jin has the latest.
Ukraine is at the brink of losing control of Severodonetsk, the epicenter of fighting in the eastern Donbas region. That's according to the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, who said on Wednesday that Russia now controls most of the city. President Zelensky called the situation dreadful.
It's dreadful and difficult fighting. Perhaps it's one of the most difficult battles during this war. I'm thankful to each and every one who is defending in this direction. To a great extent, the fate of our Donbas is being decided there now.
But Moscow is not only eyeing Ukraine's east, but also the south. Satellite images reported by the New York Times on Wednesday showed that Russian forces have restored a canal supplying water from southern Ukraine to the Crimean Peninsula. Water hasn't flowed through since 2014 when Ukraine set up a dam using clay and sand to retaliate against President Vladimir Putin's annexation of the peninsula. Since then, residents in Crimea have suffered from water shortages. Also, in Zaporizhia, where two-thirds of the land has been occupied by Russian forces, a referendum will be held later this year. Citing an official from the Russian-installed administration of the region, TASS news agency reports that the vote will be on whether to join Russia. The war is having ripple effects across the globe too and could cause a global food crisis.
I want to say clearly that we expect clear and concrete signals from Russia because blocking the exporting of grain means keeping hostage and giving a death sentence to millions.
Meanwhile, the United States Treasury Department on Monday issued fresh restrictions on banning Americans from buying Russian stocks and bonds. They include both new and existing debt and equity securities issued in Russia. Before, buying such assets that change hands in secondary markets was allowed. 송유진, Arirang News.
Korean animations have recently been garnering greater global recognition. Regardless of the success, some experts point out the need to provide greater support for the domestic animation industry. Kim Bo-kyung has the full story.
All eyes were on the movies and actors at this year's Cannes Film Festival. But one area that might have been overlooked is the animation sector.
At Cannes, just 9 animated films were selected from more than 3,500 entries for the short film category. One of those 9 was Persona, a 6-minute animation by young Korean director Moon Soo-jin, the first time a Korean animation has been shown at the festival.
And other Korean animations have also been in the spotlight recently. Last February, director Jung Yoo-mi's House of Existence was selected for the Berlinale Shorts competition at the Berlin International Film Festival. And at the annual short film contest Digicon 6 Asia 2021, Chun Seung-bae's animation Battery Daddy won the silver prize, while Animation Ghosts won an award at the Turkey Women Animation Festival. Such global recognition comes after years of effort. The Korea Creative Content Agency has long been supporting directors producing independent animations and has helped get them shown in front of global audiences. It has supported all of the previously mentioned films and also runs several programs to train those who dream of working in the animation industry.
I applied after hearing that I can systematically learn how to use the Unreal Engine tool and also get employed to do the actual job training. By making animations as a team project, I'm learning how to use the real-time rendering program and motion capture system.
Though Korean animation is getting global attention, an official from the KOCCA says there are still not enough training programs.
Korean dramas and movies are gaining global popularity, and that is because there are training sessions that let more directors and producers develop their capacity and shine. But the animation industry lacks such programs for fostering young talents.
But with more financial support and attention, the KOCCA official says the Korean animation industry can be a big success. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Showers have now tapered off and warmer air is forecast to move in overnight. Conditions will be close to sweltering for most regions tomorrow. For the daytime, summer heat will make a return with readings surpassing the seasonal norms. Maximum temperatures in the capital will jump to 29 degrees Celsius. And with rise in temperatures, the sun's UV ray will get stronger nationwide. The entire nation will see UV ray index in the high to very high range. Sunscreen will be a must tomorrow when heading out. Some scattered outbreaks of rain are expected for mountainous regions of Gangwon-do province. On Saturday, rain clouds will become more widespread, dropping showers across central regions and Jeollabuk-do province. Morning lows in Seoul will start off at 18 degrees Celsius. Expect partly cloudy to overcast skies for the daytime. Busan will get up to 25 degrees. Seoul, Daejeon, and Gwangju will all reach 29 degrees Celsius. With the unstable atmospheric conditions continuing, frequent showers are in the forecast for the next couple of days. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.